To see how well South Korea is handling this outbreak, have a look at the lineups of passengers arriving at Incheon Airport near Seoul. They have to pass through multiple levels of temperature monitoring and fever checks. There are testing facilities right in the airport. Passengers are told to self-isolate for 14 days. They are required to download a cell phone app to report any symptoms to health authorities, in which case they will be closely monitored. This is just the first line of defense in a massive system to track the virus, and it seems to be working. If you compare the progression of infections in countries like Italy, Spain, the United States, and Canada, Korea was much more successful in containing the spread of the disease, and now has far fewer deaths per million of residents than most infected countries. It didn't start out so well. Back in February, in a religious sect called the Shincheonji Church of Jesus in the southern city of Daegu, a woman now called Patient 31 ignored symptoms of COVID-19 and proceeded to attend large religious ceremonies. By the time she was diagnosed, this super spreader had infected over 5,000 people. Then the secretive church refused to cooperate with medical investigations. Young-sun Kim is a journalist with KBS, the Korean public broadcaster.
This church keeps their followers' identity secret. And initially, they were reluctant to hand over the list of their followers to the authority. That's why, the Korean people were so mad at this church.
Eventually, the church leader prostrated himself before an angry public and apologized profusely. The Korean containment system swung into action to slow the outbreak. Once it is established that someone has a suspected or confirmed case of COVID-19, cell phone and credit card data is used to chart everywhere that person has been lately and every other person they have come close to. The contacts of those people can also be traced almost instantly, giving a much better idea who requires immediate testing. Hoon Sang Lee is a professor of global health security at Yonsei University in Seoul.
They can use big data and AI to analyze their whereabouts. So now it is totally automated. So within 10 minutes, all those information can be gathered automatically. So the contact tracing time had been drastically reduced at this moment.
People also receive cell phone alerts of contacts with infected patients and locations in their neighborhood. Victoria Kim covers South Korea for the Los Angeles Times.
So if there's been a COVID patient in my vicinity, I will get an emergency push alert on my phone that'll tell me they were at this restaurant between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30 last night, or like this particular subway stop at these hours.
This sort of thing will raise privacy and civil rights concerns around the world, but the vast majority of Koreans seem to accept it.
The government keeps the balance between protecting public safety and protecting private information, basically. So the information made to public does not include any private information that allow people to identify whose information they are receiving. So it only says male or female and their age. That's all. So you cannot tell who he or she is actually. And second, the people understand extraordinary measures are necessary during extraordinary time.
고열은 아니었고요.
Drive-in testing facilities have been set up all over the country and are a godsend for families who can't bring in babysitters or spend hours in the hospital. Robert Kelly is an American professor at Busan University who became famous a few years ago when a BBC interview with him was interrupted by his children and then his wife chasing them, and the viral video of it went around the world. He loves Korea's drive-in testing facilities.
Taking my kids to a hospital for 2 or 3 hours? Give me a break, right? I mean, forget it. They're going to be climbing the walls and punching each other and they're going to tear stuff off the walls. I don't know. You literally just sort of pull up into like a parking lot somewhere of a government building or a school or something like that, and you'd wait your turn, and you don't even have to get out of the car, and the guy comes up and they swab your nose or your throat, right? And then they take the biological stuff and go and they do the test and they come back in about 15 or 20 minutes.
Professor Kelly is impressed by the Korean public's cooperation and compliance with outbreak guidelines.
Korea is very centralized and it's very presidentialized, which means once the presidential office decided that this was a big deal and moved against it, the Korean state was able to swing into action pretty rapidly. But the level of social compliance with government recommendations has been very, very high.
Unlike many other countries, there seems to be no huge pressure in Korea to quickly reopen the schools. Bars and restaurants were never closed. South Korea has shown the world that very extensive testing and contact tracing are the most important weapons against this pandemic, lessons that few Western countries seem to have taken to heart. Terence McKenna, CBC News, Toronto.